Hi there, BJ.
Hey, Steve.
We're back at it again, and looks like we might have lost our guest for a minute or two, but
Uh-oh.
hopefully that gets figured out.
We'll pick him up.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. I'm missing one of my screens here too. Let's see. Where is it? That one. Ah, there we go. Yeah. Let me see.
How are things?
Nope. I'm
What's going
I'm
on?
doing great. Doing great. Actually, I think our guest is with us. I just had a little
Good.
glitch on my end. Things are going well. We start tryouts tomorrow. It's going to be an odyssey. I've got um, the admin for our athletic department is also one of the track coaches, and she sent a note around saying I really would like to coach track, but I know I'm going to spend the first part of both of my days trying to get kids cleared. So this year, God love her, she's going to be in the auditorium with her, two extra computers for them to log in and get their registration stuff done. And so in our school, what they do is they give the kids a golden ticket. If you get cleared but you're not on the cleared list, you go to see her, and if they come to the gym with a golden ticket, I can let them try out, and if they don't, I got to kick them out. So that's the fun part of the first couple of days. There won't be as much coaching going on as, but I'm just gonna have them play kings or preferably speedball, and just see what they do. So that'll be fun. Tomorrow night will be interesting. I'll come home, my wife will go, "How'd it go?" I'm like, "I don't know. We'll see." So how about
Yeah,
you? What's going on?
that first night's always a sleepless night after
Oh yeah.
seeing him. We started, UW Green Bay started on uh, Wednesday this last week. And it is a little emotional after not seeing him for a couple months. You, it's, I don't live in Green Bay. About an hour and away. So just going up there and seeing them, giving them high fives, and seeing these. I always want to say kids are not. I mean, they're women, but seeing
Yeah.
them again and seeing the staff and finding out what everybody's doing. They're back to school and people are, you know, they're they're hitting the books and getting back to their studies and concentrating on majors and also it's the spring, so the pressure is kind of off.
Hmm.
There are a lot of pet projects that we're working on, things that you maybe don't have time for during the fall. So it's pretty neat. It's a fun time to be a volleyball coach in the college world for sure.
Well, that's great. Well, look, let's get our guest in here. I'm gonna let you do the introductions, and let's see if that works. There he is.
Yeah, we have known each other a little bit, Kaiao and I, only via volleyball coaches and trainers. So another one of those connections. And I've really enjoyed his take on things. Every time I see he's got a comment up, I'm like, okay, I got to go read that and see what his philosophy is. Um, so that's how he's coming onto the show. But Kyle. Why don't you tell us? The first thing we always ask everybody is, how did you come into volleyball? Where are you from? How'd you come into volleyball? What's your volleyball history, and how'd you end up here in this crazy game like the rest of us?
Yeah, I'll have to make sure I add in my volleyball coaches and trainer story, my Brian Suente story for sure. It's not that crazy, but that's how I first learned about volleyball coaches and trainers, and then I'd love to get into a little bit of my background. First would definitely be remiss if I didn't say shout out, love, and aloha to Venom Volleyball Club in Arizona. What a terrible thing that they had to go through, and know that the volleyball community is thinking of all of you, and yeah, just wanted to make sure we started with that. And my name is Kaiao Nahale-a. Um, Lucky to have found this game. I was a former soccer player. Man, shout out indoor sports. Woo! Let's go. Let's go indoor volleyball. But growing up playing soccer in Hawaii, just Hawaii traditionally not a ton of tall players or tall athletes, right? And so, uh, you know, volleyball in Hawaii is huge. And so, about sixth, seventh grade, everyone was like, "You should play volleyball. You should play volleyball." And I was like, "No, I'm a soccer player. Soccer player." thankfully had some pretty amazing coaches in my life to kind of, brainwash me the right way, perhaps is how I'll say it. Um, and two huge influences in my life, Coach Guy Enriquez and another coach, Albert Pacheco. I had gotten into it, and I was by that time a pretty good soccer player, but I was not good at volleyball. I mean, you guys know volleyball is a game of incredible skill, and it takes time to get good at that game, right? I I go through about my second season with them, and I about halfway through I'm just like, Dad, Mom, I hate this, like I'm not good, I'm gonna quit. And I'm so thankful that Coach Albert, you know was like, I went up to him, my parents were like, hey, you want to quit, you got to tell coach yourself, like that's on you. So I said, oh, Coach Albert, I'm not good at this, I want to quit, I'm quitting. And he said, quit? You're not a quitter. Your family's not quitters, and you made a commitment to me. So you know what? You're gonna stick it out this season, and if you hate it by the end, you hate it, and it's all good. So I was like shocked. I was like, "What?" I thought I was about to get out of this, and of course, by the end of the season, I got better. I was loving it. Got to high school, played for a great coach, changed my trajectory of my life. Um, After I basically decided to stop playing soccer, I got into coaching and coaching volleyball, Guy Enriquez team camps, and I haven't looked back since. I decided to make a career of this. My joke is no kids, no mortgage. So I guess we could kind of figure out how to live off a coach's salary, and we'll kind of go from there. Um, and I'm grateful for the mentors and people in my life that have uh, you know, kind of formed my coaching philosophy up to this point. And, I think I stole this from Pat Medea actually. And I think when it comes down to it, is better people play better volleyball. I don't know that Pat was the originator of that. I'm sure many of us have thought that for a long time, but I'm truly a believer in it's not about the wins and the losses. It's about who we become in the process. And so I'm happy to be here. Happy to have found this game. This game's brought me all kinds of people and experiences and connections, and it's just incredible, man. I live a lucky and blessed life. So that's a little bit about me.
That's also that sounds very Hawaii to me. That philosophy, let's just be better people, and everything else is gonna come. I have just a little bit of work experience. Well, it was over a long amount of time in my other career, the one that actually pays me. I worked for. I never got to visit. I was always working on getting a site visit, but I worked on a bunch of different projects that are in Hawaii. So I got a good dose of Hawaiian culture, which
Sure.
just was fascinating to me. And my wife and I are still toying around with how do we get there? How do we find 2 weeks to get to Hawaii and really spend some good time? A week or a weekend is not enough. You gotta get a couple weeks.
Two
So
weeks is a
so
nice
I
chunk of
love that.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. That,
Steve, have you gotten to be in Hawaii or go to Hawaii or anything like that?
I have not. My wife has. As I was listening to you, I was thinking about how when I started coaching and we when we go to qualifiers, we always enjoyed watching the Hawaiian teams play. And a lot of it's cultural differences. I mean, we always like watching the Puerto Rican teams play.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
families on both of those cultures are so into it. And they're great fans for the most part. You get the occasional dad, or not as much, and the enthusiasm for the game and the skill levels. It's like when I talk to guys, I'm like, go watch a Hawaiian team and watch the hands of their setter, because right these days. I draw the distinction between a control set and an attack set, and the attack set's kind of throwing your hands at the ball, and that's what most of my guys sound like when they get started, and I'm getting them to cushion that ball just a little bit. Other than the guys who chest pass, which that's a whole other problem. I said, go watch the skill level and try to emulate what you see. And I've always been impressed there. And again, we see top teams that come over usually, but it's nice to see, and it's also nice to see the enthusiasm, which you get in most places on the boys' side here as well. But there's just a little different flavor to it, which I really like watching.
Totally, totally. Yeah, I had a recent, I don't know how you say it, in my mind. Just thoughts pop up as the years go on. I've always thought like, where do these biases come from? Of like, oh, Hawaii volleyball teams, oh, scrappy volleyball, or like how you said, Steve, like, oh, smooth setting hands, or we think, oh, Texas, like, oh, big volleyball players, like there's hammering balls. It's just so interesting how we just over the years sort of like, yeah, like this is kind of the style that comes out of these regions or these places, and I like we talk about on BCT sometimes. Maybe just because it's your bias, it's definitely probably not the actual truth of the matter. But
Oh yeah,
it's always
definitely a
interesting.
bias.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I couldn't even tell you any other ones. I haven't seen enough volleyball across the country, right? Like I couldn't even tell you, oh, East Coast volleyball is like this, or anyway, yeah, something
No,
interesting to think about.
scrappy is a thing that I've had. I've been coaching 20 years ish, and I've had maybe one or two teams that were considered scrappy. And what I've found is it's really getting them on a team defense kind of mentality. That
Mm,
and I think we used to teams we would play like that on the girls' side. I'm on the boys' side at the moment, but on the girls' side, we talked about Kiva last year. I played a team one year from Kiva. Nobody was over 5'9", and and it's and I'm like I got a threes team there playing their twos, and I'm like, yeah, this is going to be interesting. And we held with them for about 8 points, and then they figured out what they needed to do, and it was like, oh, okay, now we know what to do. Kill them, and they were great. I told my parents afterwards. I said that's what we aspire to be in terms of learning how the game and being at that level, and and they put the time in to make it happen. But the enthusiasm, it's like in your world, that enthusiasm for high school and middle school and early stage volleyballs there, I'm in Arizona
mm,
and I'm at a Title I school, and which is not a which is a great opportunity to build the game. But you go and see the basketball players and say, hey, you ought to come out for volleyball, and they look at you like you're from Mars. I'm
yeah,
not doing that sport.
totally, totally.
It's a different
And
mentality.
man, I can empathize with that. Where I'm currently living in Oregon now, and the club that I'm with currently, Athena is our women's side, and then Ajax is our boys side. And yeah, we're just like, man, we want to grow this game, especially on the boys side. We're like, come out, come play basketball, and or come play volleyball. They could be basketball players. Yeah, same thing. They're like, but so you just build it and they will come, as they say, and it's
Yeah.
been cool so far. Yeah, super cool.
In Milwaukee, the men's volleyball or boys volleyball explosion happened in the 80s when
Mm,
they decided they were going to integrate the schools. They were going to bus people everywhere. So they took all these kids that were in the city and they're busing them out to the suburbs. And then all of a sudden there's a bunch of guys that because there were so many good basketball players downtown, there were a bunch of guys that were playing basketball at these outlying places, and all of a sudden they're off the team because, or sitting at the end of the bench because there's a better player there.
mm,
There's new guys. So the couple of guys that I knew that started the men's club at that time, they just started going around to basketball teams saying, "Hey, you're not you're not playing right now because you got displaced. Come on up for volleyball and see what this is like." And
yeah.
that's how it kind of exploded. It got going, and then I think it was by the mid 90s. It didn't take long. It was maybe 10, 15 years. All of a sudden, we have a state sanctioned sport. We're playing championships. I think there's something. I think there's something there, Steve, like you were saying about getting guys that aren't doing anything else. You go get those guys and you get them into volleyball.
Yeah, it's like I had one guy come up to me last week. So we've been doing open gyms, and I've got this kind of core of guys who play. And he came up and said, "Coach, the first month I'm not going to be able to make a bunch of practices. Is that okay?" And I said, "Well, what are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I'm the drummer in the pit band, and we're doing the musical, and like, hey, music comes. We're an art school, so I'm like." Music comes first. Do that, and you'll get out here, and you might get better a little slower, but we'll find a way to get you into the program and keep you going, and do your drumming thing, because like I used to play in the pit band, and the drummer's a real important part. So stay there, do what you need to do, and those are the things. When I was in I used to be on the North Shore of Chicago, and it was, oh, you're in club, you're committed, and all of it, depending on the club. The first club I was with, it was like, if they're not here, we're gonna, and I'm like, punish them kind of stuff. I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna do that, but I'll keep track for you. And my old rule of thumb was 90% of practices is where you need to be to really get the most out of your club dollar, right? Today, with so many other things going on, and especially at a high school where they've got competing things and they got family things. I got a guy who was like, "Hey, I got to work all tryout week, so I'm probably not going to be there." I talked to my boss, and I think I can make most of the practices after that. I'm like, "Look, you're in. Don't worry about it. Just work on your schedule, and we'll take care of you." Different attitude, but I think we got to be there for the kids, not for having the best record this year. It's like, okay, we just want to get better. So our motto is dot 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 yet, and that's how we think about it.
Love that. Love the power of yet. Definitely something super heavily influenced by Mr. Trevor Reagan for sure. Remember when he have his like basketball school, reading all his articles and all those things like that. I was like, huh, like, it's pretty cool. Like, not yet. Like, we'll figure it out, but we're on the path, we're on the journey. Love that, Steve.
Tell us about your the kind of the Portland volleyball scene. We don't, I'm from the Midwest. I'm in Wisconsin, so I'd love to hear what volleyball's like in that area of the country.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, um, a lot of pride in high school volleyball. Starting up in August, there's tryouts and whatnot. These kids, these players, they love. You know, the young women love to play high school volleyball. No boys high school volleyball yet. Yet, uh, there will be well, who knows? But so they love playing high school, and then right as high school starts ending, they're like, oh man, we're so excited to play club. Man, club feels longer and longer every year. It's crazy. There's so much investment in volleyball here in the Pacific Northwest. So anyway, we play in the SIVA region, and so we've got Power League, and I know Power League means and looks a lot different across the country, but for our region and our players, any club that wants to sign up and pay the dues, you're part of Power League. You get like one weekend a month where you're, you know, coming to the gym and competing with people of like skill, and you come out, on the top of your pool, you go up in the Power League, you're on the bottom, you go down, so that hopefully by the time our last Power League or regionals gets around, you're uh, competing against the closest like skills you possibly can. We also do a little bit of a fun thing where throughout the season, excluding regionals, our top one or two, it starts with four, but then our top one or two kind of keep going up to, it's called platinum, which is like the tippity top of our Power League, and we play with the Puget Sound region, which is like their best four teams, our best four teams, and I think it's fun for those really high level kids. But we provide super awesome experiences for a lot of them. There's a lot of friendship tournaments, and clubs trying to help pay the gym rent by hey, come play at our local tournament. Don't drive 2 hours to go to a Power League. Just drive right in your backyard, 15-30 minutes, and we can make it work. I think Pacific Northwest volleyball is growing. I think we're on the upward trajectory. We're trying to figure out like, hey, let's get the whole mindset of like, it's not just California volleyball that's good. Hey, you can find some good volleyball, up in Washington, up in Oregon too. And so I think we're on that track. I think we're just all trying to figure out, what's too much, what's how can we give these kids a break? Because man, opportunities are endless. It seems like. I mean, you can go from high school to indoor to beach, back to high school, right? I mean, it's kind of that's how it's turned into. But it's fun. It's great. I mean, I love it. And Pacific Northwest is kind of a melting pot of a lot of people. Like I'm born and raised in Hawaii. It's quite a few of us with some, Pacific Islander influence, but then there's people from across the country and homegrown, and so it's been cool. It's been an awesome experience, and I've been, up here for the last 10 years now, about 10 years. So gotten to see volleyball kind of boom over the last 5 for sure.
One of the things I've liked, I've run into, actually, I was in the middle of relocating, which didn't pan out years ago, and I wound up interviewing with a club in this city I was moving to, and they were, I'll say, displaced or relocated Hawaiians. And what I really liked was the family attitude that and I've run into that a lot with Hawaiians. Exactly, and that was the name of the club. So but that whole thought process, and it's a little different than it has a different feel to it. I won't say it's different because I know most clubs try to behave that way as well. But tell a little bit about kind of how that comes to play for Hawaiians, and I don't want to get too ethnic about things, but it's one of the things I really that's engaging and appealing about the thought process.
Yeah, and I might find more value in hearing you, Steve, and BJ speak to like how is it that you're seeing the Ohana culture, because it's so hard, when you're the fish in the pond, you don't quite realize, right, like that you're in it, right? And so maybe to speak on that a little bit while BJ gets back, I guess it's just when I think of culture, I think of like, okay, here are the accepted norms of behavior, right? Like, okay, these are the things that we do, like, and those things often are just passed down generation over generation, and it just sort of takes enough people to say yes, like we like the way we're living life this way. And I think how that translates to volleyball is maybe coaches like that, maybe their 18s are helping out with their 14s, or vice versa. Maybe there's some benefit there that they see, and all it takes is a couple of nice reviews or feedback from parents to be like, man, I love that my daughter Sally Sue knows the older Sally Sue, and I think there's a few examples like that. And I'm trying to think, it's maybe some observations that you two would spur another thought in my mind, but I
think the biggest thing.
Go ahead, BJ.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me, the thing that I always think of when Hawaii comes up is Outrigger and the program there. People, you can point at it and say, oh, they've had so many great athletes that have come out of there. Of course, they're awesome. Well, it's not just that they've had athletes; they develop these people.
Yeah.
There are, right next to the main couple of courts, there's the famous baby court where where everybody, all the little guys are over there. They're watching the big guys play, and they're over on the baby court doing the same thing and mimicking what the big guys are doing, and the big guys are into it too. They're happy to have those younger players there watching them, and they're helping them. There's been more Olympic athletes have come out of that one club, at least on the men's side for sure, than any other place by far. So to me, when we start talking about that Ohana, that's the first thing that always comes to my mind is how cooperative that group of people is.
For sure.
Yeah, that's the team nature of the game was what drew me to it anyway. I mean, it's you can't just. I mean, with very few exceptions, you can't have just one gun. You've got to have everything working, and even your weakest player is going to save you somewhere along the line. You don't know where it is or when it is, but there's going to be a reason that works. And it was funny last week. We've had a couple of like brand new kids come into the gym, and really this one kid who's really working hard to try to come along, and he's brand new, and just at that awkward stage where they're just learning how their body moves and all that stuff. And my
Yeah.
experienced guys, and I only have a few of them, were just as positive, and as when he got a serve in, it was like during the play it was, oh, great serve from both sides of the court. And it would. So I sat him down the other day. I said, I got to tell you, I'm proudest of you guys for how you're embracing the less skilled players. And and that's not for everybody. I've got one or two players that I'm still working on who tend to get frustrated with the lack of skill. But it's like, look, that's you can't be that way. It doesn't work for us as a club. And I'd like to think that I'd like to think seeing other organizations do that.
Yeah.
Is and there you go.
Hey, that's awesome. Yee.
Well,
The
that
correct
one,
spelling
Nice.
and
that's a
everything. I
beauty.
love it. I
Yeah.
love it. That's awesome.
Everybody had those. We played against this club a couple times. Everybody had those shirts. Like everyone, they were like $10 a shirt. So everybody's just buying them. And it was just a fundraiser for them. So I've hung on to this. This one's probably 15 years old, but I
I
still wear
love
that
it.
one around. Yeah, yeah,
That's
it's
so
pretty
cool.
cool. Yeah.
I all this chatting, well, makes me think of a quote I heard recently. It's sometimes you, sometimes me, but always we. It's like there's always times where it's like, yeah, sometimes it's them. They got to work on their skills. Yeah, sometimes it's me. I got to work on my attitude. But what overarching of all of those things is if we have a focus on us and we togetherness, you know, we'll be on the right journey. We'll be on the right path. And I guess maybe to shout out another boys club. When I at least when I see their social media, and when I talk to the people within that club, I mean, Beta Bay, has created a pretty cool culture. Like, you'll see them like just getting rowdy for their team, like on the sidelines, and it's like, man, what happened? Is that is like, oh yeah, like Beta Bay, like they always do that. It's like we all have that capability across the country to go cheer on a sister club or a team within your program. Like, why is it like it's so weird? And this is true in any organization or team that I've coached or whatever. You just have like the dominant personality. Some people are like, oh, the captain or the leader, but really, I think it's the dominant personality. And if they're going, it just takes a few people to be like, oh, I got to go too now. Oh, I got to do that thing. And it's just incredible the influence that kind of thing has. And shout out to Beta Bay. We're copying you for sure.
Where are they out of?
They are out of like San Francisco area, I believe. And to my understanding, they're just a boys club.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I'll have to pay attention. I don't know the boys' clubs as well. I know the men's team somewhat better, I think, than the women's team. I like to watch it, but I don't. It's weird
Yeah.
that I don't know the boys' clubs. I've never been to boys' nationals. I've been to girls and adults, but never boys.
Well, after
Next
I
time
moved here, I was like, oh, AZ Fear. Okay. The guys we always hated seeing, but, we knew they would be good. It's like, if we can play well against them, we're doing our job.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. BJ, next time I see one of their signature social media posts, I'll put it on
Do
VCT
that.
or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for
do that. I'd
sure.
like to see that. I like people that are putting out good social media. Our assistant at Green Bay was fantastic at it. She grew our Instagram followers from like 400 to some 20,000 people, and it was just
Wow.
because it was, yeah, just so popular. She just made cool stuff, and she was getting some posts that were seen by 1.5 million people, and it's neat when you're positive like that. You just you can get some attention for that positivity.
Yeah, yeah, BJ, we got to work on our Instagram game because we don't have one.
Yeah, it's pretty. Mine's pathetic. It's terrible. But
uh,
tell us your Brian Swente story. How do you know? How'd you meet Swenty?
oh well, I had kind of made up my mind. It's totally anticlimactic, so don't expect any kind of cool
Oh, that's
punchline
all
or
right.
anything. But uh, I just kind of made up my mind. I was like, I want to do this coaching thing, and I think I found John Kessel through Trevor, but I'm not exactly sure on those two seem to go hand in hand at this point. And I think John was posting about the high performance coaches clinic up at Colorado Springs, and I just thought, holy smokes, like what a cool opportunity. And at that point, I don't really know a ton of people and haven't been coaching for a while, and I just said, screw it, like let's figure out let's just go, like go and figure it out later. So ended up going, and John had
What year
posted
did you
something
go?
like, I feel like I went to the last two that happened. So whenever that was, because I remember
Yeah,
thinking,
so
oh,
we
I'll
were
go again
together.
next year. There you go. Awesome. I remember thinking,
Yeah.
I want to go to the next one. And then it was like, oh, we're not going to have it anymore. That's kind of bummed. So anyway, um, yeah, so I just got my butt down there. And John Kessel had posted something like, well, don't make excuses. Like if you need a place to stay at my house or whatever. And I was like, okay, like I'll just message John Kessel of all people, and I got to stay with him. He truly like picked me up from the airport, took me in. I was like, this is a joke. There's no way somebody like John is like, and we got to chat, and that is probably one of the milestone moments in my coaching career for sure. But then I stayed in the dorms the next year because I was like, oh, I gotta get socialized, meet people. And Brian Suente just walking through the halls, just like popping in. He's like, hey, what's your name? Brian, military background, right? And I just was like, oh, Kaiao, and just he goes, hey, nice to meet you, man. You're excited, da, 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 da. And he was like, that's when I think I found out about the Facebook or whatever. Yeah, so you're on the Facebook group, right? And I was like, oh my God, like newbie doesn't know anything about the cool Facebook group that apparently random strangers walk into your room and tell you about. But luckily he was kind to me and like, oh no, volleyball coaches and trainers, blah blah blah. And I was just like, whoa, like this is so cool. Like because at that point he might as well have been like famous. I was like, oh, Brian Sweaty, this is so cool. Which he is. You guys all are. BJ, you're famous. Gosh,
Oh, I
that
don't know.
group. Where's that
I'm
group
kind
at
of a
now? Like
nobody.
50,000, 50K?
20. I don't think we've hit 25 yet. I think we're around
25. Okay.
24, 20, 23, 24,000, something like that. It's
Man.
pretty cool. It's nice size. So you were there. You were there in 2015 and 2016.
Okay.
Because Swente went in 16, and then you were here's how we'll be able to tell for sure. There was a year, I'm pretty sure it was 17, where Carl McGowan had died, and
Mm.
they had a little tribute in the gym for him. And it was really powerful. So if you remember that, you were there in 17.
No, I do not think I was there in 17.
Yeah,
I
you
think
were
it
there in
was
16 and
15,
15.
16. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the coach, I always forget his name, but he was coaching for Argentina at the time.
Yep.
He was one of the guest coaches. Those 2 years kind of blend together, so I'm trying to figure out who else was there. But yeah, awesome, fun experience. Totally do it
Yeah.
again. It was great.
That's a great story about John, though. John, I got to know him through Mike and through also going to Colorado Springs and seeing him at a couple of the CAP courses that I went to. I never
Yep.
went to high performance, so that's one I missed. But he Mike told me, he said, when you go to CAP and Kessel is there, get a volleyball and hit him in the head with it and tell him, because that's what Mike used to do with him. And so the last time I saw him, which was this past December, I had one of his blow up balls because I wasn't going to whack him in the head with a full size one, but I bounced one off his head just to remind him. And but he was wonderful. He came in. Well, I started this course called the Science of Volleyball. It was an undergraduate course at IIT, and you got all these kids who were not volleyball. They were engineers and biologists and architects. And John would come in and the first week would video in with us, really crude video connection compared to this. And he would just talk to the kids for an hour about what things were needed in volleyball. We had kids trying to make a low-cost third world volleyball that people could because people didn't have volleyballs, and ways to, somebody sent us a note saying, "Hey, that Japanese automated blocking machine? Could your guys make one of those? It's low cost." And our guys figured out a way to do it, and it was great, and it combined the tech side and the volleyball side. But John was there for the beginning to give us ideas, in the middle to evaluate them, and at the end to congratulate the kids and give them their feedback. And he's a busy guy, so for him to take that time out was, he's just a tremendous. And there's so many people in the sport like that we're fortunate to have him.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
So it does not surprise me that he picked you up at the airport.
No, not at all. You probably stayed in Cody's room. He's got a great stack of books all the time, and that was I did the same one year. Stayed there for a night or two, went skiing, then went over to HP. And
so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. You were thinking of the guy you're thinking of was Julio Velasco, probably one of the best volleyball coaches of all time, and then. You also should remember Laurent Tilly, who was the French coach at that time. Yeah. And then 4 years later, won the gold medal, right? Were they gold medalists, or was it 8 years? When did they? No, it would have been 4 years. I think in 21, the Frenchmen won.
I mean, I remember being so appreciative of them being. I don't even know if fearless, confident, just in presenting what they had to offer to everyone, And I remember just thinking like the way they would speak about what they believed in. It was so passionate. I was like, man, like just really cool to consider. Unfortunately, as coaches, or this probably happens in leadership as well. Like, you always do it the way it was done to you, right? Oh, that's how my coach coached. So that was one of the more powerful things, was like, wow, like maybe you could dig down the line this way. Like, I guess it makes sense. I don't know. I think there's times where people feel very challenged, when it's counter to their own beliefs. But man, I'm glad that I had those experiences, quote unquote, earlier in my coaching journey, so that, you just kind of, you got to broaden your horizons. You got to grow. You got to see the game in as many different ways and angles as you can. I loved it. I loved it so much.
So Kaiao, if you're thinking, let's say you've got in your club, or maybe just you get a note from one of your parents, and they say, "Hey, I've been asked to coach my 6th grade team at my kid's middle school, and I don't know anything about coaching. How do I start? What do I do?" What would you tell them?
I would be so giddy and excited, and probably turn the fire hose on and blast them with too much stuff. But I would hold their hand and take some fire hose in the face too while I do it. I think, if we try to simplify it, I would just say, hey, if you're coming in and what you're doing looks like volleyball every day, that's probably going to help more than anything, right? And I would try to help them feel like, hey, you don't have to do it maybe the way other people are telling you to do it, and I think that's one of the scarier things. It's like, well, if we want to work on hitting, like I have to toss it to them and they have to stand in the line and hit it. Like that's hitting, right? It's like, hey, maybe there's another way. Maybe there's another way that you can figure this all out. So, I would just inundate them with as much John Kessel and, the game teaches the game stuff as possible. And probably be a little too excited to check in with them and be like, how's it going? What's going on, dude? Like, yeah, because I think that is probably something that is super exciting. And who knows, maybe that's where my coaching journey will take me in the next 10 years or something. But you just saying that is like an exciting thing to be like, oh, like a fresh batch of like kids, just, you introducing them to the sport. Like how cool, like clean slate, they don't have any of these weird biases of like, yeah, like, working on defense means a coach is just standing there, just wailing balls at me. And the players are like, yes, I got better at volleyball. It's like, well, maybe you didn't. I don't know, man. It depends what the science says, I guess. So that's pretty exciting. I feel like I'm talking around circles. Make it look as close to the game as possible. Let's just put balls over the net. Let's just meet the kids where they're at too. Sometimes you get an athletic bunch of sixth graders, man. You can progress up pretty fast. But if they're super new, that's awesome too, man. And we gave that example of the John Kessel ball. Hey, maybe that's just where they're at. We got to meet them where they're at. And you know, this might sound kind of cliche, but I definitely had the love of soccer like beaten out of me. And I mean, take it, I was in college or whatever, but man, you gotta make it fun too. Like the juice is not worth the squeeze. If yeah, I'm getting better at volleyball, but I have a panic attack every time I walk into the gym because that's no good for nobody, man. So you gotta make it fun. You gotta make them learn it. You gotta make them big old volleyball nerds, and I feel like that's just the way to go. I at least that's how I've decided that I'm going to live my coaching journey out for sure. Yeah.
You just nailed exactly what I wanted to say to my head coaches at Green Bay. It's got to be fun. They got to be able to learn, and they have to have a great experience. And it's not even there's no order. Those three things all have to happen together. Otherwise, it's pointless.
Totally.
It
I
can't be stressful.
When I was in college, I was an RA, just always finding myself in positions of leadership somehow. And or my bosses, she would, which I've taken into my coaching journey for sure. She'd say, everyone, you are the architect for people's good old days. When they look back 10, 20 years from now, they say, man, those are the good old days. And you got to kind of design it that way, right? If you're an RA and you're just like rule stickler, they're going to remember, yeah, whoever my RA was, like, geez, I just was in fear of that person. But, if you think about it in the volleyball court, they can look back fondly and think, man, like it was so fun. Heck, maybe they take their kids to go play volleyball because they remember that. Maybe they go off and get a college education because they had so much fun playing volleyball with you. I mean, you never quite know the seeds you plant. Oftentimes as coaches, we never get to sit under the shade of those trees. So, man, just keep on farming, keep on being a volley nerd, keep on making the game fun. I think that's a worthy journey.
Yeah, I was at open gym the other night, and one of the kids, I don't know how it came up, but one of the kids said, well, if you do this, if you try to, you're going to have to run. And I'm like, and I said, oh yeah, there are some coaches who would make you, for first thing in tryouts, you go run a mile. And one of the guys goes, yeah, like we do that in volleyball. I was like, okay, you get it. You understand. And they're like, yeah, well, what about this? I'm like, no, I'm not into the punishment thing, guys. You might sit on the bench if you're, not being a good teammate. And I said, I'll show you something that I saw in a gym that I really didn't like. And I showed him this thing called, I'd never seen it before at that time, 18 years of coaching. And it was, we're going to do towels. I'm like, what the hell are towels? Every player had to have a towel in their bag, and if they did towels, they had to put the towel on the floor and push it from one end of the gym to the other. It's kind of squatted over it with their hands down on it, pushing with their legs, and I'm like, yeah, okay, not going to happen in my gym. But you see that and you go, okay, is that going to help their volleyballs? Because it was probably better than running a mile, only because they're probably developing some leg and upper body strength out of it. But I can think of a lot better ways to use that time. But it's
we just don't have time for it. Yeah, that's the thing.
Right.
We don't have time to do that stuff because they have so much work to do on learning skill, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and I probably spend too much time on it, but I really do try to get us, we go from zero to knowing our rotations and stacking and whatever we're going to do. We got to get that clear. And it's a challenge, but we generally do a pretty good job of that. Because the last thing I want to do in a match is spend all my time being out of rotation or, but it happens with, I've got a varsity squad that can happen with when you are brand new players. At my second year, I had 12 players from the soccer team come in. 9 of them were seniors. I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And then COVID hit and it changed everything.
Mm.
But it was kind of like, okay, we'll have to figure all this out. But we try to get those basics done. So there's a lot of mental stuff they've got to do to kind of keep track of how the game is played, in addition to learning the basic skills. So I hate to take a walk through practice, but every now and then you got to do that to get the idea across, because they need to know why, and that helps them retain it. But it's not as easy as it. You think, oh, I just explained it. I've done videos on it. Yeah, they're helpful to about 20% who watch them, and everybody else, forget it. It's not going to happen. But
Sure, sure,
I'll
sure.
take the 20%.
Kaiao, are you getting those ultimate? You're mostly on the boys' side, you said. So are you getting some of those ultimate beginners where they just have no idea this is the ball? Where do I send it? What do I do with it?
Sure. I'm actually mostly on the girl side, but who
Oh, you
knows what the
are.
future
Okay.
will, who knows what the future will hold. Uh, we do have, especially this year, there was kind of an influx of interest, and you'd be surprised how many people mentioned that anime, the volleyball anime. Like, oh yeah, I just love that
Oh yeah.
show, and then I just wanted to figure it out, and then in that case, many of them were just new, but it's kind of crazy how some of them were like, yeah, I just watched it in the show, so like I wanted to get good at it, so I just started practicing. It's like, whoa, that's kind of interesting how that influences each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't leveraged that enough. But on the videos I do, I would say a fair number of people do the instructional videos are like Haikyuu fans,
Yeah.
and it's it. I need to tap into that a little bit more.
Why not, right? Yeah, it's cool. I love it. I'm sure. I mean, there's emails getting sent every day. Like, do you have anything? Like, please, please, please. Like, we'll come for like an open gym or whatever the cost. Blah blah blah. Like, just we want our kids to start playing some volleyball. So it's like, okay, we gotta keep growing this thing. Yeah, keep more anime. Let's do it. Love it. Yeah, whatever it takes.
Yeah, it is. Any entry into the sport. I mean,
Yeah.
most guys my age, or the guys that I don't know, got in because there was a girl involved. There's always that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
whatever it takes to get a dude into
Hey,
volleyball.
everyone's journey is unique. Every it takes all kinds. It's all good. Yeah, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Well, Steve, we're kind of getting close to the end of our hour here. Did you have anything else, or Kyle, do you have any last? Or oh, you know what we didn't talk about was your you the other day had a post about a fundraiser, a program that you were working on at the Aloha. Maybe you should talk a little bit about that. Just tell us what that's all about.
Oh, it definitely not a fundraiser or anything. It was I think you're speaking about the post I made on my personal page, not like VCT or anything.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, just I've sort of one way or another decided my life's motto and vision and mission is just to live aloha, and it is so um try not to be too critical of myself. Easy for me to just be chatty Cathy and talk, talk, talk. It's another thing to like live out those values of aloha and show that and preach that and be about family and togetherness and all that stuff. And there's been so many people who have shown aloha to me in my life and have guided me through those values. And so just want to continue to perpetuate that. And so live aloha, always and always was a phrase I stole from my dad, and just is it's just beautiful, like yeah, like anything that can happen to you, you can apply that, oh, your car breaks down, hey, live aloha to the person who's coming to help you, and hey, maybe that your car breaking down stopped you from getting to a car crash or something, it's all about perspective, all about controlling our mind and how we think, and by doing that we could influence our lives and the way we live. And so no kind of fundraiser or anything. And heck, if you got a few dollars to spend, get, buy some volleyballs for your local community or your local team or something like that. I'm lucky and blessed. And so that little post I made was just a little passion project. It was like, I was like, oh God, another shirt. Nobody needs another shirt, right? But I just loved how big Live Aloha was in the front. And I've actually had a few people reach out and said, hey, I need that shirt. I want to wear it in my classroom. Like my kids need to get this message, or a few coaching colleagues have said, hey, I love that. I want to wear that. Or some of my beach volleyball friends, they're like, hey, I need that hat. Like I want to wear that hat, out and about. And so it's just cool. And I definitely do not have enough product for the amount of people. I thought, I thought my grandma and my sister were gonna buy a couple shirts, but now I'm like, oh shucks, I gotta ramp this up for the summer maybe or something like that. So that's very kind of you to ask about that, BJ. Appreciate that.
Well, I wouldn't ask if I didn't like the message. I thought the saying
Sure.
was cool, and from the little bits that I worked with folks in Hawaii, I just liked the direction, the philosophy of it. So I just felt like, let's hear about that, and from somebody who really can know it and live it.
Sure. Love it. Love it.
Well, Kaiao, it's been great to spend some time with you. And this is, one of the things that the partnership with BJ and BJ knows everybody, and he's got a great encyclopedic kind of memory of folks. Like he went back to to those early sessions, and I'm sure he's got some notes in the background he's pulling on. But I also know he just retains that stuff pretty well too. I am not that way, so I'm the tech nerd, which I just know enough to be dangerous, not effective. But it also gives us the opportunity to hear from coaches who have gone through different kinds of journeys, and I think your journey is a fascinating one, and I'm looking forward to hearing more as time goes on about what you do and where you're going. But thanks for being with us here today. Really appreciate it.
Man, more and the same could be said about you guys. Appreciate the opportunity. Love it. This is getting my Sunday morning off to the right start. And so I don't have too much else for you guys. Aloha, appreciate you. And hey, if you ever need me or if I think of any cool topics, I'll make sure I shoot it BJ's way and maybe we'll get together again or something like that. Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. So I'll hit the outro button and we'll see you all next time if I can find it here. I kind of hit it. There we go. See you